Hey viewers, Purple Celery here. Welcome back to my channel. This week I'm looking at episode 11 of season 10 of Doctor Who, World Enough and Time. I thought this was quite a brilliant episode. We have this great opening sequence where the Doctor stumbles out of the TARDIS, falls onto his knees in the snow and starts regenerating. Wow. Then we flash back to the main story where Missy, Nardole and Bill are on the spaceship. The Doctor's monitoring them. It's all part of an exercise to help redeem Missy. And then of course that sequence ends with Bill being shot. So in last week's video I mentioned how the title of this episode, World Enough in Time, is a line taken from an old poem called To His Coy Mistress, and the main theme of that poem is essentially life being short and time running out. And this is really what this episode was all about, the concept of time and time running out. And I really like the concept of how you've got this massive spaceship where up the top time runs slowly, down the bottom time runs fast, and we kind of saw some foreshadowing of that in last week's episode, The Eaters of Light, where if you stand in the gate, time moves more slowly for you than it does in the outside world. Initially down the bottom of the ship, Bill seems to have all the time in the world, but we soon see that that's actually not the case for the Mondasian humans, because time is essentially running out for them. They're getting weaker, they're getting sicker, essentially they're dying. And of course at the end, tragically, the Doctor runs out of time to save Bill and prevent her from being converted into a Cyberman. At first this episode seemed to be all about Missy's redemption, and then it kind of moved into the space of Bill and her predicament. And as I was watching I thought, oh okay, this is kind of a little bit misleading. It's more about Bill and her situation. Then of course comes the big reveal at the end, where the affable guy who's been helping Bill all along and keeping her company rips off his mask, and lo and behold, it's the Master. I thought this was a great twist. Like, I knew that John Sim was returning for this episode, but I did not see that twist coming. And so with that reveal, we then see that the episode is in fact about Missy and the Master and Missy's redemption all along. I thought that World Enough in Time was quite a scary episode. It's definitely not an episode for small children or people who have a phobia of hospitals. So the scene where Bill was in the room with all the patients with the masks over their heads was pretty terrifying, and I thought it was especially terrifying how at first we think that the lady, the nurse, whoever she was giving them pain relief, but all she actually did was just turn the volume down. So clearly they were still in pain, they were still begging to be killed. Overall, I thought that Stephen Moffat wrote a great script, and I especially liked the whole flashbacks within the main flashback, where we cut to the Doctor and Bill eating takeaway food together at the university, and the Doctor's kind of reassuring Bill how he can't make any guarantees, but he'll do his best to keep her safe. Then it cuts back to the main story where we see Bill getting shot, and the look of horror on the Doctor's face, because this is really his worst nightmare coming true. One of his friends and companions getting killed because of him. Because let's face it, the Doctor had to persuade Bill to come along on this particular adventure. So she would never have been there if it hadn't been for the Doctor convincing her to come along. And I also thought that it was quite ironic how a few minutes previously Missy had described Bill and Nardole as her disposables, because that kind of came true just a few minutes later when Bill was shot. So at the end of this episode we're left with 3 cliffhangers or unanswered questions. Number 1, what's going to happen with Bill? Will the Doctor somehow find a way to reverse the conversion process? And number 2, what's going to happen with the Doctor? Is he really going to regenerate? Because my understanding was that Capaldi wasn't leaving until the Christmas special, unless of course we just see his character in flashbacks. I'm also wondering whether the Doctor actually uses his regeneration energy to somehow heal Bill and reverse the conversion somehow. Then there's number 3. What's going on with Missy and the Master? Because at the end of this episode she seemed to be helping him, she seemed to be on his side. which kind of raises the issue of can she be redeemed now? Can a person really be redeemed for something terrible that they've already done and which can or cannot be reversed, even though they're now quite literally a different person and they might not remember what they did? Can the Doctor ever forgive Missy now for what she's done to Bill? I am wondering whether Missy has been redeemed to a certain extent and whether she'll somehow end up killing the Master to make him regenerate into her, but she'll do so in such a way that he actually won't remember his time on the spaceship. Or another theory is that perhaps Missy does in fact remember all along what's happened and she was only pretending not to remember when she met the Master. And Missy knows how this plays out and she's just kind of, going along with it all to make sure that everything plays out as it happened originally. Fixed point in time, etc., etc. But who knows? I guess we'll see. So here we are, nearly at the end of season 10, and boy, it's gone by really, really quickly. We've only got one more regular episode with Peter Capaldi to come, and quite possibly two with Pearl Mackie and Matt Lucas, because I don't think there's been any word on whether they're coming back for series 11 next year. So overall, I thought this was a really, really good episode, and I give it 4.5 out of 5 wombats. But what did you guys think? Please leave your comments below. Subscribe to this channel. If you like this review, give it a like. And I will see everybody next week as we look at the final episode of season 10, The Doctor Falls. This is Purple Celery, over and out. See you next time.